Hello, everyone. Welcome to Durrett's Take. It's that time of the week to go over my NFL picks for this week. So let's get started with the multiple games we'll have on Thanksgiving Day. Let's get started with the Packers and Lions to kick things off. Lions are 2.5 point favorites. This game was not close back in week one. I expect it to be a lot closer this time around. I think the winner of this game will win the division, in my opinion. Detroit needs this win if they want to lose a tiebreaker, if they don't want to lose the tiebreaker to Green Bay. What's interesting is that Detroit usually falls short when it plays on Thanksgiving, whether the team's good or not. I think that Detroit will just figure out a way to try to find a way to get a win, no matter how ugly it may be, and they stay alive for the division title for now. I have Detroit winning 23-21. Next, you got the Chiefs, who are 3 point favorites versus the Cowboys. A big game on Thanksgiving Day. The loser of this game will most likely miss the playoffs unless they run the table going forward. The Cowboys usually don't play well on Thanksgiving, so that is something that's on my mind as a Cowboys fan. And I know that Patrick Mahomes is a Texas native, so he wants to show out for the home crowd there. My gut feeling, though, is telling me that the Cowboys will actually get the upset in this game, so I'm going to ride with them at least for another week, either winning 24-22. And then for next game, you get the Bengals versus the Ravens, who are 7 point favorites. This game has some question marks for sure. On the Bengals side, you get Jamar Chase back from his 1 game suspension, and then you finally get Joe Burrow back at quarterback, even though I think he's making a mistake in playing. I know he just wants to play, but there's a chance you're going to get injured again when you're not playing for anything at this point in the season. So, but that's his call. And then but the thing though is that the start pass rusher Trey Hendrickson's still out, and then T Higgins now out in concussion protocol. So that's going to be interesting to watch there on the offense. Now for what's going to be interesting also is just to see if Joe Burrow is he like rusty at all, and because a lot of players when they come back from major injury they're rusty. So it'll be interesting to see if he's rusty, especially since he's going against a Baltimore defense who has improved over the last month, but that's mainly because of who they play in their schedule. Now, for Baltimore's side, Lamar Jackson has clearly not been the same since he's come back from his injury. Um, and so, will he finally be able to put up points since he's playing such a trash defense in Cincinnati's defense? I don't know. Um, I assume they'll be just fine on offense again since Cincinnati doesn't have a good defense. So I'll have the Ravens win this game. I have them winning 31-24. And then you got a Black Friday game. You got the Bears versus the Eagles, who are 7 point favorites. This game sets up to where the Eagles, got embarrassed on national television, this past weekend, having an epic collapse in the fourth quarter. So now they come back home. They're sharper. They're more focused. They get the big home win. However, I never know what to expect with Philly this year. I do think the Bears are due for a loss, though, so I will take the Eagles to bounce back and win. But I would not be shocked if this game is closer than expected, or even the Bears get the outright upset. But I have Philly winning 27-20. Now, for some Sunday games, you got the 49ers versus the Browns. And the 49ers are 4.5 point favorites. So the Browns quarterback, Shadir Sanders, will get another start despite Dylan Gabriel being clear from concussion protocol. He played fine, against Vegas, but that's Vegas. San Francisco, with their defense corner Robert Saleh leading the way, is a different animal. I think Shadir will struggle more in this game. However, I do think the Browns' defense and them being at home will keep them in this game, since I'm not liking what I saw from 49ers offense last week. But I do feel like the 49ers will just find a way to get a win, either winning 23-16. Next, we get the Jaguars, who are 6.5 point favorites versus the Titans. The Titans showed somewhat of a fight against a good Seattle team last week. The bye week probably helped out with that. I don't think Tennessee will be that competitive in this game, as Jacksonville should cruise to win. I have them winning 27-13. Next, you get the Texans versus the Colts, who are 4.5 point favorites. Very good game here. These two teams are coming in with totally different momentums. Texas positive momentum, Colts negative momentum. Even though this game is in Indy, I can see Houston getting the upset here, and I actually will ride the hot wave and pick Houston. I have them winning 23-20. Next, you got the Saints versus the Dolphins, who are 6 point favorites. The Dolphins are coming off a much-needed bye week. I think they feel inside the locker room that, hey, if we win out, we can maybe somehow sneak into the playoffs. So the season's not over quite yet. So I feel like they're not going to take the Saints for granted and just come out and do their job and win the game. I have them winning 27-17. Next, you got the Falcons, who are 2.5-point favorites versus the Jets. Quarterback Kirk Cousins go out and try to make it 2 wins in a row for the Falcons. And despite Atlanta's record, they're not out of the division race yet since Tampa and Carolina are slipping. So I feel like they'll come focus in this game, not let one slip away. So I have them winning 28-20. Next, you got the Rams, who are 10.5-point favorites versus the Panthers. The Panthers are in serious danger of losing 3 games in a row. They struggle against 49ers defense. Well, imagine what the Rams defense is going to do. And then, when you put on top of that, the Rams offense has been so hot right now, I'm going to have the Rams to win. I have them winning 30-10. Next, you got the Cardinals versus the Buccaneers. I think that whether Baker Mayfield or Teddy Bridgewater starts, depending on how Baker's health is, I think Tampa can win this game since Arizona's defense is not the best. However, Arizona, as we know, can score. So, especially since Tampa's defense is not that good. So the Buccaneers will need to make sure that they put some points on the board in order to get the win, which I think they will. I have them winning 31-27. Next, you got the Vikings versus the Seahawks, who are 10.5-point favorites. Even though the Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy recently went into concussion protocol, it does sound like that he might actually be playing this week. But whether he plays or not, Seattle's going to roll. I have them winning 27-9. Next, you got the Raiders versus the Chargers, who are 9.5-point favorites. Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh, is coming off a bye week. Plus, they're facing Vegas, who's firing coordinators left and right. And even though the Chargers have offensive line issues of their own, I think they should win this game easily with all those scenarios playing the factor. So I have them winning 24-10. Next, you got the Bills, who are 3.5-point favorites versus Steelers. If Buffalo loses 2 games in a row, then things are going to get really, really tense in Buffalo if it's not already. I think this could actually be an offensive type of game since both rush defenses are not good and both teams want to just run the ball effectively. I will go with the better quarterback in this game to get the win, though. I have Buffalo winning 31-27. Then for Sunday football, you got the Broncos, who are 6.5-point favorites, versus the Commanders. Too bad this game couldn't be flexed out of Sunday football, but oh well. Even though this is a game that Denver on paper should win easily, in fact, with the way Denver typically plays to the level of competition, so I do definitely would not be shocked that this game is close, even though it shouldn't be. But I'll have Denver get the win 23-17. Then for Monday Night Football, you got the Giants versus the Patriots, who are 7.5-point favorites. Well, even though the Giants keep on finding ways to lose, at least they're interesting to watch, especially on offense ever since James Winston has started for them. Although Jackson Dart is on track to be back for them. Maybe the Giants make things interesting against the Patriots, especially since the Patriots have a couple key offensive linemen out with injuries. That could be a problem. However, I'm not predicting an upset in this game, though. I have the Patriots winning 31-24. So thank you very much for listening to my podcast today. Please subscribe to my channel to tell about me. Thank you very much and happy Thanksgiving.